860-714-2684. 860-714-2684.
Good morning. Hi, Akelia. You're here for your first COVID vaccine? Yes. Welcome to Burger, Connecticut. Have a seat. I'll just clean you with a little alcohol and we'll do your shot. Is that okay? Yeah. Then you're all set. Here's your sticker. Thank you.
Visit the Berghoff Clinic at 131 Coventry Street. Please call now at 860-714-2684.
We all have.
Tim, right now, you're banned.
All right.
Okay.
They had a very cool event on Pratt Street, though. They brought some of the baby goats down to Pratt Street. And then a whole bunch of people walked from Pratt Street over to the stadium, at like quarter to 7. So that was a lot.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. My name is MALY, and I'm the council president for the Court of Council for the City of Hartford, and I'm calling to order this regularly scheduled meeting of April 11th, 2022 to order. For those of you who are viewing us this evening, this meeting is being broadcasted by Hartford Public Access TV, Facebook Live, channel 96 through Comcast, and channel 6032 through Frontier. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark. Councilman Gale.
Here.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Present.
Councilman LeBron.
Here.
Councilman Mitchum.
Here.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Present.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Here.
Councilman Sanchez.
Present.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. And for the record, we have Mr. Eric Lutha from the clerk's office, and we also have Mr. Howard Rifkin from Corporation Counsel. And now our town clerk will lead us on to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. And Councilman TJ Clark will not be with us. He has excused himself from this meeting. And for the first time today, we will have our Assistant Majority Leader, Councilwoman Rossetti, call the agenda. So with that said, Assistant Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam President. I make a motion to approve the minutes of the March 28th council meeting.
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any comments? Any discussion on the minutes? There be a none. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Gale.
Here. Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Assistant Majority Leader Rossetti, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I make a motion to place the following items on the consent calendar. On consent. 3.2, which is a resolution authorizing the city grant of $85,000 from the Hartford Foundation. 4.1, which is a report from Health and Human Services authorizing the city to accept $1,342,290.16 from the state of Connecticut Department of Public Health. 5.1, which is the resolution for free permanent bus transit, and Resolution 5.2, which is the resolution encouraging financial institutions in the City of Hartford to support initiatives such as Bank On and the Postal Banking Act.
Second.
Sorry, sir.
Councilman Mixtum?
Thank you. I would just wanted to offer a brief comment on the free transit resolution, only to say that I think people at first blush think that the idea of the bus just being free is a pie in the sky idea, but a lot of places have done it, notably Kansas City, Missouri. This is similar resolutions are being introduced in Willimantic, in New Haven. I'm working on Ford and Hidden and some other places. So my hope is that this capital city leading, and other cities are going to follow, and the state government, whether it's the governor or the legislature, is going to hear us and maybe make this a reality. So if anyone watching this, and if any of my colleagues, if you have friends in other cities, you want to sell them on this, or if you happen to cross paths with the governor while you're walking around town, give them a little nudge and tell them it's a good look.
Thank you, Councilman Mixtum. Are there any other comments or discussions? Any other comments? There being none, this motion has been made and properly second. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Assistant Majority Rossetti, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make a motion to receive the following item, which is a communication presentation from Director Arroyo.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Assistant Majority Rossetti, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly second. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll to go into executive session?
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And so now we will log off this screen to go into executive session, and we will be back shortly for the members of the public watching this meeting. Thank you. Session. With that said, Assistant Majority Rossetti, you have the floor.
I make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
Mr. Clerk, a motion has been made and properly second to come out of executive session. Could you please call the roll?
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules,
Are we voting or are we just saying who's present? I'm sorry.
We're coming out of executive session. It's a motion on the floor to come out of executive session.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Assistant Majority Rossetti, you have the floor.
Through you, Madam President, I make a motion to approve a settlement in the amount of $125,000.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly second. Councilman Mitchum?
I don't know. I don't know if Councilwoman Hercules was going to speak first. I wanted to defer, so.
Well, we're voting on it, correct?
Yes, now we're
Well,
taking a roll, Councilman.
I was going to comment, but I didn't know if you also wanted to comment first.
I'll comment when I put my vote. Thank you.
Well, then I will comment before I put my vote. Only.
Just one moment, Councilman, because the last time you went a little bit ahead of me. So a motion.
I beg your pardon.
A motion has been made and properly second. This question is for Corporation Counsel. On the comments where we were in executive session, and I know that Councilwoman Hercules and Mitchum want to make comments. How openly can they be when we just came out of executive session? And this is to Corporation Counsel.
There's been a motion in a public session to accept a proposed settlement in this case, and members of the council are free to comment about that in any way they want.
Thank you. With that said, Councilman Mitchum, followed by Councilwoman Hercules.
And I do recognize that. I don't intend to comment on any of our deliberations that happened in executive session. I just want to talk about the case itself. And it is a frustrating situation because we're here in the role of having to look out for the city's best financial interests, which means that if there's a settlement on the table, and our lawyers are saying it's a good look, then we should ought to take it. But it's frustrating to me because the facts of this case are just a classic police getting us into trouble and cost as a city and causing one of our residents injury and misery for no reason. This is a guy who was stopped for an open container of alcohol that he was drinking from. And they did a pat down on him for no reason, really, truly no reason, just because they can and because they do. They escalated and things went sideways. And he got injured, a cop got injured, the city's out a bunch of money. And this is the kind of thing that happens again and again and again. And the fact that we have maybe 80 grand in litigation costs and 125,000 in settlement. And meanwhile, the cops involved, one of them's retired to Florida. None of them were found to have done anything wrong. And, this is just the one that comes to a lawsuit. There's more of these. So I hope that we carry the memory of this, what it costs to have a large police force that does what it likes, when it likes, and then goes home to the suburbs. And recognize that it's not just the budget item, right? It's not just the 48 million we spend on them, right? It's more than that. It's the trauma to our residents, and it's the additional costs and energy that our whole legal department puts in. And I'm going to vote yes, but this is just appalling.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Thank you, Madam President, through you, and thank you, Councilman Mitchum, for saying what I probably artfully can't say right now because my emotions are running really high. I cannot imagine the amount of trauma that this individual, the plaintiff in this case, is dealing with even till this day. I'm traumatized just reading it, not having to have a visual depiction, but certainly my mind imagining what this individual experience at the hands of police for something that maybe should have amounted to a fine, if that. This is indicative of the way that often Black and Brown residents are policed in urban areas, particularly when we have a large police force that likes to take force and ask questions later. This incident should never have risen to this level that we are now here voting on a settlement, which in my view is a really insignificant amount compared to what this man should be compensated. But as we are entrusted with a fiduciary responsibility, we have to vote in the interest of the city. But I do sit here as a resident as well. And so I'd be remiss not to recognize the humanity of the plaintiff here, and to echo what Councilman Mitchum said, that this incident needs to not leave our memory anytime soon, especially as we enter into budget deliberations, especially as we think how to reimagine our police force here in the city of Hartford, and what is really necessary in order to create a space in a city where people feel safe, where we don't need to be brutalized in order to make very simple directives. And so I hope that we don't lose sight of what's really important here. Yes, $125,000 is, not insignificant to a city that is struggling financially, or that, a large portion of our residents live at or below the poverty line. But again, I do think it is kind of insult to injury to someone who suffered a great deal at the hands of those who we are supposed to be able to entrust to protect and serve. They had a huge dereliction of their duties this day. And now, of course, they're nowhere they're not in our city anymore. And so they probably could care less, because it didn't come out of their pockets, but it's coming out of the taxpayers' pockets. And so the only reason I'm voting yes is because, again, to uphold my fiduciary duty. But certainly if I could, we would not be giving this man $125,000. We'd be compensating him in a much greater amount than this.
Thank you. Let's see here, Councilman LeBron, followed by Councilman Gale, followed by Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron, you have the floor.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. So I won't go, I think Councilman Mixdom and Councilwoman Hercules spoke to the individual and the things that happened to the individual and the egregiousness on what he had to endure on his journey and his interactions. What I do want to talk about is potentiality around systems and system change and system reform. I remember a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, we spent a lot of time on the Civilian Police Review Board, redoing it, rechanging it, multiple meetings, those things being done. I urge the folks that are involved in those meetings, these are the opportunities. These are the opportunities to create change. These are the opportunities that, as citizens, that we are looking for folks to try to help, to look at these things and move away the leaves and move the things away so that you can see things better and create system change. The other thing is that we also did a lot of work on the PARB. I think it was Majority Leader CLARKE who introduced the PARB originally. Somebody could fact check me, but the PARB, the Police Accountability Review Board, and those opportunities to create overview and system oversight. These are the systems in place that can help to create this change. And so I urge the folks that are sitting at those meetings, look at this opportunity here. Look at these frustrations, although the details weren't shared. You have opportunities to make change. And I do want to also state that there is possible solutions because of things like that. Our Mayor BRONIN and a resolution that I put in that created the I Heart team and has caused differential responses. So exactly like this, we're not responding with police response all the time, because that we can see the significance and the impact of having police respond and it being the response is being exponential for something so small. And so we have to make sure that not only are we looking at system change, but looking at system change effects, but also operationalizing opportunities when we have them in front of us. And so I agree with everyone, and I urge all the community to continue to be intentional about these efforts. And to all my council colleagues, you know, we've all been involved in this work. It's been multiple times, and I salute everybody here for all their effort in terms of criminal justice and criminal justice reform in some capacity at the City of Hartford.
Thank you, Councilman LeBron. Councilman Gale?
Thank you, Madam President. And clearly emotions are running very high on this matter tonight, and duly so. I don't want to leave the impression, I don't think really any of my colleagues do, that there's really a wholesale attack on the Hartford police force. I think in any police force, you're going to have some rotten apples. That's not to say that these officers are rotten apples, but you're going to have some problems that occur. But it's a large police force, and they do an awful lot of very good work as well. And I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that right now, Hartford's in a lot of trouble. I think we've had 10 murders thus far this year. We're not on track to be less than last year. I think we're on track to be more. We've got a lot of pedestrian deaths that have already occurred from wholesale chaos that's occurring on our streets with drivers who are paying no attention to traffic laws. There's certainly concern out there. There's certainly a need for some public order. We do need, well, let me put it a different way. We don't need to make enemies of our police force at this point in time. And I don't think anybody here intends to do that. So I certainly recognize all the comments that have been made, and I'm 100% sympathetic to those comments. But I did want to just give that perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Sanchez?
Thank you. Through you, Madam President. So it was a difficult decision tonight on this settlement. But I just want to, first of all, I want to agree with everyone that has spoken, especially Councilman Mictum and Councilwoman Hercules. I want to piggyback on Councilman Gale's comment, and basically, I would like for the audience to understand that this settlement that we are about to vote on is a case that occurred several years back. It's not recent. From a couple of, from two police chiefs ago. I just want everyone to know that this has happened several years ago. It can happen again. But at this time, in today's day and age, we have implemented and reallocated funding through the police department for better training, for better understanding, and also allocated funding for a better service so that when our officers are there, they can call and depend on the health department, for example. So, just keep in mind that this is a case that occurred 2 police chiefs ago. So that's several years back. It's not something that's actually happening now. I believe our police department has improved exceptionally. We still need improvement, of course. It could be another incident that may occur. Let's hope it doesn't. But I think it's important to recognize that our department has improved since that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Sanchez. And I do want to echo the sentiments of all of my council colleagues. And like Councilman LeBron said, the CPRB board, Civilian Police Review Board, now has subpoena powers. Councilman CLARKE put through the Police Accountability Review Board. So this is a work in progress. And like Councilman Sanchez said, this case was several years ago. We can never say and predict the future, but we all need to work with our police department, with this administration, to make sure that we can do better every day. Are there any other comments or concerns? Councilman Mixton.
Thank you, Council President. Just briefly, it's good we have the PARB. It's good we've reformed the CPRB, but it keeps happening. And Councilman Sanchez says it's not happening now. I hope that's true, but usually the way this plays out is we don't find out for a few years, right? Because it works its way through the court and then we get the settlement question. And instead of us sitting here and saying, well, let's hope for the best, or the problems we have the power. These 8 people, and Councilman Clark, if he were here, I would say these 9, in a month, we are going to vote on another budget. And we will surely be looking at another budget that keeps us having one of the largest police forces per capita in New England, and a budget that does not respond to changes in crime. It just keeps on going up, right? So let's not act like, well, this is so complicated. This is simple. Too many cops, too little accountability. We can solve this problem if we want to.
Are there any other comments? Would there be a none? Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I want to thank my council colleagues and members of the public. Just a reminder that this Thursday is the first meeting of the Red Light Task Force. So we welcome all of you to join us on Zoom and on Facebook and social media. With that said, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Right.